So good evening, welcome to the Ventnor Town Council meeting on 11th of November 2019. Firstly, do we have any apologies for absence?
From the Mayor, who's still in recuperation, and Councillor Dean Fry, likewise.
Okay, thank you. So I have to ask members, are there any declarations of interest in any of the items on this evening's agenda? Okay. Item number 3, we have the minutes of the previous meetings, the Town Council meeting from the 14th of October 2019. If you'd like to take a look, and then I will be looking for a proposer and seconder. When you're satisfied, I'd like to propose it.
I'm quite happy, Chair, as these things are put out before this evening, so I'm quite happy to propose. Thank you.
I second that, if you like.
Thank you. And can I have a show of hands, please?
I wasn't here. Does that make the count?
Those who are here.
That's quite remarkable, isn't it? Okay.
That doesn't happen often.
No. Okay, and there's minutes of the planning meeting are included for your information. Yeah, another thin meeting, but it was just Brian and myself. And minutes from the Ventnor Partnership Library.
Yes.
There's a few more attendees to that one. Okay.
We're always good on that one.
Good, thank you very much. Item number 4, the finance report. Could you introduce for us, please, David?
I can, thank you, Chair. Balance at the end of October on the Council's funds, 253,482. Both accounts have been reconciled to that date as required. Payments during October total 36,122, with 5,308 being spent in Salisbury Gardens. The full list is attached as usual for members' information. Receipts came to a total of £10,449, with almost 5,000 of that being the total of the Salisbury Gardens rate for the month. The year-to-date listed payments against preset budget lines for 7 months of the financial year is attached as usual, with payments shown at being £4,820 over budget for the year-to-date, and receipts over the period being 1,863, more than budgeted for. That's my report, Chair.
Thank you very much, David. So if members would like to take a look and address any questions. Councillor Lucas.
There's one item I would like further clarification on. The tank work at the Esplanade toilets is £430. I don't recall what that was for.
Can we ask Councillor Toogood?
Yeah, I can clarify it fine. We had a leak, a matter of condensation on the actual tank between what should have been a insulated material around it, and it was rotting out the roof below, and the almost, if you go there, you see a lot of black timber.
Right.
And that was basically to repair it and renew the tank lagging as necessary.
Right.
And it has done the trick, Brian.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you. That's good.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question that perhaps I should know the answer to already, but I'll expose my ignorance in public. The balance of the account, is that held in an interest-bearing account?
One is and one isn't.
Okay.
There's a current account which doesn't attract interest, and there's a deposit account which does attract a little amount of
A very small amount of interest. Is it in our own interest, if that's the right use of the phrase, to look for a better home for that, to maximise the return to the taxpayer?
We have looked at that before, Councillor. It just complicates our movements between the two to match the expenditure going out. So
Okay.
It's never seemed worth it, but clearly we're happy to take instructions.
I think the difficulty, I guess, would be finding something for businesses, because the range of options for businesses is a lot more limited.
Absolutely.
It's worth having a look at it.
The size of that number is such now that if you can get an additional point of interest on it, that's material.
It goes down by 45 to 50 grand a month.
That's right. But you need a lot of headway. I understand that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions or queries? No. Then I need a proposer and a seconder, please.
I propose, sorry,
Councillor Lucas.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, item number 5, Ventnor West ward election.
For information only, Chair, because this is in the hands of the Overright Council at present.
Yes, okay, understood. So, Tony Marvin. So, Councillor Tony Marvin resigned from his role as representative of the Town Council ward of Ventnor West on 30th of September 2019. I'd like to say I enjoyed very much working with Tony, and I'm sure others did too. If anyone would like to say anything accordingly, that would be fantastic. As you can see here, the correct process has been followed, and we will have an election because 10 electors have indicated that that is what they want to the elections officer. So the election, if contested, will take place on the 12th of December 2019. A small typo there. On 12th of December 2019, where there'll be a number of elections happening, as I'm sure everybody's aware. So, do we have any comments? If nothing else, just to thank Tony Marvin for his service to the council.
I'd like to thank Tony. I think he's a great guy. He's done a lot of good work. Easy to work with too. Very nice chap, I think.
Yeah, as Tony was my deputy for 2 years, and I did think that he would come on and succeed, and of course he's got other things to do, and that's fantastic. But I think he's always been a consistent member of this council. And for that, I thank him.
Good. Okay, and we wish him well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. Election, Ventnor West, 12th of December. Okay.
Yes, as the report says, Chair, we have forwarded the nominations pack to 2 people who have expressed an interest. Whether they go through with it or not, we won't know until Friday.
Up until this Friday? Yeah. Okay.
That's the deadline for nominations.
And sorry, gone through, Chair. Is Friday the last?
That's the deadline.
Last deadline for the
Have we
expression.
had any nominations at all, or are we still waiting?
They won't tell us until the deadline finishes.
But we've got 2.
Well, we hope.
2 expressions.
Okay, if everybody's satisfied, then I'll move on to the next item, item number 6, committee membership. So, the recent resignations have reduced the membership of both the Town Council's committees below the level specified in their terms of reference. So, firstly, the Planning Committee, the terms of reference say that the membership should consist of 5 or more members. Currently, it's Brian Lucas, the chair, myself, and Ian Bond. Councillor James Toogood, who was previously on the Planning Committee and did an excellent job, is willing to be reappointed. And there's also an interest from Councillor Watling to join the Planning Committee. So we'll come to the recommendation at the end. The next item is the Staffing Committee. The Staffing Committee should consist of 3 members. Currently it's the Mayor, and contrary to as to the sheet here, I'm also on the Staffing Committee. So we're looking for 1 more member to come into the Staffing Committee.
I've done it before. I'm quite happy to go back on it, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, we can move to the recommendations.
Just a couple of points on planning I wanted to raise, Chair, which I think this is the right time to do so. Councillor Lucas has done a brilliant job this year improving the objectivity and professionalism of the Planning Committee, but I think as we're moving up to 5 members, it is the right time to raise 2 matters. I think one is training. If you look at other parish councils, there are quite a range of low-cost training options available for members who are involved in planning, either online training or documents that members can be handed, or people that will come and do a half-day session, whichever we think is appropriate. And I think moving from 3 to 5 members, with 2 of us being very new, probably is the right time to look at some low-cost training for planning members. So what my suggestion would be is we ask the town clerk to look at some options and come back to us with a proposal. The other matter I wanted to raise is, again, having looked at various other parish councils, quite a few parish councils have a protocol for dealing with planning decisions that sits alongside the code of practice. And incidentally, I couldn't find the code of practice on our website. I don't know whether it's there or not. If it is, it's well hidden. Code of practice for members. But the idea of the protocol is mainly for the public to read, so they understand how the parish council or town council deals with planning applications, what they can expect from us, what our role is, what we can do, what we can't do, what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And also therefore partly for members, so we understand what we should do and what we shouldn't do, so that everyone is clear. And my suggestion would be that we ask we need to be agreed by the council, because in a sense it's a restraint on the planning committee. My suggestion would be that we ask the planning committee to look at consider the matter and look at some drafts from other parish councils and come back to this council with a recommendation. So it's a piece of work to take forward over the next few months.
Is this in addition to the code of practice which all councillors have to subscribe to?
It is. I mean, again, I don't know. One of our standing orders requires all new members to have training on the code of practice within their first 6 months. So I don't think that happened in my case. I don't know whether it's happened in other new members' cases, but maybe some work to do on the code of practice. But the idea of the protocol is it's more of a plain English version for the public.
Yeah. We do the protocol.
Well, I'm not suggesting it's a planning committee look.
Well, we do the protocol.
If the committee says it's, the committee isn't minded to recommend something, then
I'm sure the committee would be more.
Well, as current chairman, I support that because the planning laws are quite complex, and we are lay people basically giving judgment on material matters as it affects our town. But we're not planners, but we do need to understand how planners tick and the criteria that they use for judging these applications. So yeah, I support that. We did have some training several years ago, but the new members certainly have not had advantage of that.
Yeah. I did have a IWAL training. It was half a day at the Riverside Centre, and it was very good actually.
Yeah.
So there's some training that's been done, but half a day or a couple of hours in 2 years is a little bit lacking. So, but no, I support both aspects. So the training, I'm sure David's noted accordingly, and then as the chair, if you're quite happy to see this on the next agenda of the planning committee.
Yeah, I'm happy to dig out a few examples from other parish councils to start us off, because I suspect we can do it by cut and paste.
Yes. But there are also planning consultants who we know who will run a course in-house if we wanted it for enough people, which would be quite affordable.
Okay, super. All right, thank you for your contribution, Councillor Bond. Then we move on to the recommendation. So the first one, we'll take a show of hands on both, I would suggest. And the first one to appoint Councillors James Toogood and Colin Watling to membership of the Planning Committee. Proposer?
Yeah.
Proposed by Jason and seconded by Brian. A show of hands. Okay, thank you. And to appoint one member, in fact, to the membership of the Staffing Committee. So we have a proposer for Mr. Councillor Toogood. Thank you, Councillor Logan and Councillor Mack. And a show of hands. So,
Thank you.
okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 7, the new public toilets. So the background, we should all be fairly familiar with that we have unanimously agreed to authorise the clerk, as advised by the Assets and Services Group, to initiate the following initial stages of the project. That involves a discussion with the Isle of Wight Council about the installation of the public toilets in the car park, the development of the related plans, and the preparation of tender documentation. Furthermore, we had agreed the sum of £5,000 to develop plans and drawings. The detailed plans have been received and are attached with the report. And following discussions of them with the Assets and Services Working Group and an initiative from Councillor James Toogood, an alternative approach has emerged based on a brick-built building rather than the modular approach used by major suppliers. So, Section 2, Alternative Construction. Councillor Toogood, if you'd like to introduce that.
Yeah, I got to be careful with this because I've been working with Nikki Cox. It's not something I've jumped on. Only when I got back. Nikki asked me if I'd look at the plans recently. I went back to him and said, surely we ought to be looking at alternative because a good stable brick building is a lot better than a prefabricated building. I had a meeting with Councillor Brian Lucas and we agreed to sign Brian, didn't we? So what I've done, and these plans are only a start. I asked Mr. Bartlett for 50 quid and Andrew Hitt said he would come up with a sketch for £50, so we spent very little money there. My personal opinion, I'm not sure and I don't want to know the cost of a prefabricated one. I want privy to that and I'd be grateful if no one told me. But I like to have a crack at producing these in traditional brick built. And I feel as a brickie, I could do something there and make it look Victorian. We could play around with brick with several things. We could look like we've got forced windows. It'd be a lot stronger building. In my opinion, it would be a lot vandal proof and it's got a good lifetime to it. Where prefabricated comes with maintenance problems from my experience, especially where you've got a toilet. I know most houses are prefabricated internally with timber frame, but this is a block where you're going to have a lot of water splashed about, floors washed, and I don't think personally a prefabricated one would stand up for many years before it shows signs of wear. So I'd really like to carry on at no cost to the council to proceed. Morgan's done a lot of research and different materials for me. I can get a quote from an estimator at no cost to me, the town council. I'm pretty sure by Monday next week I'll come up with a price fairly accurate for this, which I'd like to have a crack at, please, at no cost.
Okay, well, I have to say it's great that you're doing the work at no cost. It's a very interesting proposition. And then the ultimate plan would be to put this to tender to local firms.
Yes, it would, yeah. It needs to go to tender, definitely.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. Okay, it's an interesting proposition. Does anybody have any comments on it?
I support that totally because the building that we got an original quote for was quite a lightweight building and public toilets get hard wear. They get a lot of misuse as well as use, and I think a traditionally built toilet block will sustain far more damage and hard work in the future, and it is probably a much better investment for the council and the town to go traditional if we can afford it.
Okay.
We say the report implies at 3 that it's cheaper. Is that what we're saying?
I had a verbal quote. I've spoken to David Bartlett about it, and David's, I don't know the original price, obviously he knows the original price, so he says it's cheaper, but let's crack on and find out, shall we?
But yeah, what we're being asked to decide in the report is to go ahead on that basis because it's cheaper. If we don't know that it's cheaper, then we need a different recommendation.
I did speak to Mr. Beale with that. Yeah, I think we should wait personally until...
Councillor, it does say if as anticipated, and the opening phrase is perhaps.
But then it goes on to say proceed on the basis of the built option.
But it says if as anticipated it turns out to be cheaper.
So we're delegating to you the decision to find
No, not necessarily.
to decide which is.
Happy for it to go to the Assets and Services Group or to come back here.
And I
Except that we are, I'm very conscious of time because we originally set a target date of June next year, and if we put it off, if we put a decision off till another month, it doesn't help that. But your decision, not mine.
I'm guessing also the modular site to be quicker, is it? So there's a time issue about it within the decision as well in terms of which approach you choose.
I don't know, the June target was set by the modular provider.
That was their belief that all going well, that was the earliest they would be able to get it in.
Yeah.
Councillor Water.
So, because it's public sector procurement, I know a little bit about that. You don't need to make that decision at this point. You just need to say, we wish to procure this,
Yeah.
and then you get quotes for modular, you get quotes for route build, and you score them in whatever manner you decide to put together that tender exercise, and you choose the not necessarily the cheapest option, but the most cost-effective option, and we can construct a scoring matrix appropriately. So we don't need to make that decision. We just need a budgetary estimate that will cover both, and we seek to solicit quotes for either construction method. And then you work out which is cheaper for that.
Is that satisfactory? I mean, is it the proceed on the basis of the built option? Is that the concern? Do we have a change of the wording to that?
Take it out.
No,
Yeah,
I think
take it
we
out.
ought to explore best value for the town. You know, and that, as you say, there's a matrix of quality, quantity, speed, price, everything comes in, and it's best value that we want. I mean, this is a decision that's going to last probably 50 years in the town, so it's got to be right. And what you do with these modular buildings, you buy speed, but you don't buy necessarily robustness.
Yeah, no.
But that was my other point really, because if you look at the process, I mean, Christmas is what, a month and a bit away. We've got to commission drawings, submit a planning application, run a tender process, and at the end of that, however many months are left, it won't be very many between. They've got to build
that income.
If you commission drawings, you get people to quote on what you've drawn. If you procure a solution, other people will do their own drawings. Yeah, and you get to choose what you want from them.
Oh yeah, but doing it by June is ambitious.
I've never built a set of public toilets. I couldn't possibly comment.
No.
And should that be the same pace?
Okay, do you have any further inputs? And are we going to proceed with the recommendation without the first line?
I've exchanged the first one for explore best value for the town.
Yeah. The other issue I was going to raise, and it may be that it's because I've been away for a couple of months, but at the last meeting I was at, I think we discussed the interrelationship between this and the current toilets in Marlborough Road up the hill. Have we made any progress on deciding their future?
No rush with that.
So, okay.
Okay. Everybody's satisfied with that? Yes, okay, so the recommendation has been changed to, give me the first line again, one time?
Explore best value for the town, was Councillor Lucas's suggestion.
Okay, and then inform Healthmatic that no further input is required from them, commission new detailed drawings and submit a planning application, and develop and deploy a formal tender process.
Chair, I did email the architect today to ask for some quotations for his work, plus someone to draw up a specification of work to speed things up just a little bit. So we've got it at hand, that's all I ask.
And
One final question: do we intend to do the public sector procurement exercise ourselves, or would we engage someone to do that on our behalf?
We do it ourselves.
Do it ourselves. So the advantage of that is that it's under our control. And we save a bit of money, and the disadvantage potentially is that if an unsuccessful tenderer challenges our decision, we have to have a very documented and robust process as to why we choose a particular tender, and using a third party gives you that fig leaf.
okay.
So it's a decision for us to make, but I've seen it done both ways, and I've seen it go wrong both ways.
Is there a requirement for us to make that decision now, or should we proceed on the basis as advised by the clerk?
Just for a bit of historic interest, we did the procurement for this place on our own at 300k. So
Right, so it's a big job. Yeah? Okay. Okay, then we'll move to recommendations. We have a proposal, Councillor Lucas, and seconder from Councillor Barnes. And thank you very much.
Yes, okay, I'll crack on then.
Yeah, did you say Monday?
I reckon I got a lot of meetings on Friday with it. I reckon I work on the weekend. I reckon Monday I'll have some pretty accurate promise on Monday. Okay. I mean, I honestly do, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 8, Ventnor Central, current use. So, the uses of the building until a final decision about its future development is made has been varied across all 3 of its floors and inquiries about use by other groups continue to be received. The questions that arise have been considered at several meetings of the Assets and Services Working Group, culminating in the decision at the meeting on the 1st of October to mask fire risk assessor. To mask fire risk assessor Harry Pryor to revisit the site and update his 2014 fire risk assessment. The updated assessment dated 17th of October is attached for members' information. The risk assessment makes clear that both the ground floor and the mezzanine level should be cleared of all current contents and access to them prevented. The upper hall, however, can continue to be used but only by relatively small groups of not more than 40 and only during daylight hours. So this came before the Assets and Services Group and we discussed it at length, and we arrived at the following recommendation. Is that the use of the upper hall should be solely for the use of the baby box project in view of the service it provides and its need for significant storage. That should now be moved into the upper hall from the mezzanine area, thereby in compliance with both the points as stipulated on section 2. I'll put that to the floor for any comments.
Good, cool.
Well, I think it's sad that we have to limit the use of a very valuable space in the town, but in order to keep people safe, that's how it has to be, I think. We can't ignore a fire risk assessment in a building of that nature. And so I support the baby box use, which is a very, very active and useful contribution to the town.
Thank you.
And I'll second that, please.
I'll second that. There is other uses. I mean, I've seen it being used for the Ventnor Artists Collective. And I don't see the danger.
They're out now.
They're definitely
Completely out now.
Yeah. And what about football? Is that going as well?
Well, the first thing about football hours, the football is that it was done in the evenings, wasn't it? So, and it's crystal clear that it should only be used in daylight hours.
So what we're saying is there's not much really else we can use it for.
No, but we have to keep our skin in the game, as it were. We're still on a negotiation about how we're going to change that building. That's still there. That's still there. I would endorse exactly as you said, Councillor Logan. We keep it where it is. That's fine.
As it stands, to implement the changes that are recommended here, it will involve clearing out the storage from the baby box and moving it up into the main hall itself, rather than having it tucked away in offices and storage rooms. And it will involve moving out the remainder of some artists' equipment downstairs. Once that is done and the baby box is continuing, then we'll perhaps have a clearer picture of of whether or not we can hang a couple of pictures up in the future. But at the moment, I mean, the best thing to do is to proceed exactly with the recommendation here. Nobody's happy about the situation, but it's where we are.
Yeah.
Any further comments? And I'd like to have a proposer and a seconder, please. A proposer?
I propose it. Oh, sorry, you carry on, I'll second it. Yeah. Could you get them? You got it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, item number 9. Staying in
Exactly.
the hall. Oh, where's my paper gone? Okay, mine seems to have disappeared.
What's that?
Well, I did have Ventnor Central.
Behind you.
I tricked myself, putting it upside down. Okay, the background, which I'm sure everybody is quite familiar with. It's been quite a long journey so far. Following the discussion of the potential of the delivery of the project to develop the building as a location for a new library and 12 social housing units, the Town Council meeting on the 14th of October, It was resolved to continue discussions with partners and to request urgent meetings with both the Islands MP and the leader of the council. Further discussions were then held with the former community-led housing officer and the current housing officer, which is John Prickett, and the Isle of Wight Council's housing delivery manager, Dawn Lang. Of interest is point C, which informs us that the direct approaches to the leader of the council and the MPs have not yet been made. So we still have that.
At that point.
We still have that in the pocket, you could say.
Yes, the approach to the Isle of Wight Council has been partly taken place because Stuart has written as required by the last meeting to Dave Stewart, and he's had a response saying that the Isle of Wight Council and he are very happy to support and do what they can to assist with the projects that have been submitted to them, but not until after December the 12th, which is unfortunate if that has to be the case.
Okay, thank you, David. Yes.
Loss of another month in tight planning circles.
Yeah, thank you, David. Because also at the last monthly meeting, we agreed to send a letter to the council informing them what projects were ongoing, and especially with reference to the updated index of multiple deprivation, which showed things not going in the right direction around Ventnor. So importantly, section number 2, the developments. An email from Dawn Lang on the 21st of September included a statement that represented a change from the assumption of the previous discussions. Unfortunately, we can say, the council do not have moving the library as a priority at this time. There's nothing provided within the capital budget. If this becomes a priority, we would need to look at how this is funded from the agreed regeneration programme. She added that it was now their intention to do a detailed financial assessment of the scheme, something that was originally promised from a month earlier. I don't know, see, a second email from Dawn Lang on the 5th of November set out the Isle of Wight Council's intentions in more detail. So, as follows. John and I have been working on the numbers since our training last week, and some of the key points to flag are that the Isle of Wight Council assumption that fully funding the library, however, as set out below, there is currently no funding to deliver, and we would need to go through a process to be able to confirm if and when this might be available. There is also no provision for any repairs on the library. Ventnor Town Council would need to borrow around £1 million to fund the scheme from practical completion. And finally, there is negative cash flow until the year 2022, which would mean a revenue impact for you. So, those two sections are the important ones. Lastly, on the developments, a meeting is being arranged with John Prickett and Dawn Lang for Wednesday the 13th of November at County Hall.
Has been arranged.
Yes.
Since I wrote the report.
It has been arranged, yes. Would you like to express, and this meeting, you'll be in attendance?
This Wednesday.
With Councillor Lang?
Yeah.
And you hope to take the outcome of the outcomes from this meeting to that meeting?
If there are any, yes.
Yes, yeah.
And the council's position formally adopted in September was that the council was not yet prepared to give up on the scheme in spite of the daunting challenges in the way. I do want to say, Chair, if I may, to add to what's in section 2 of this report, it is extremely disappointing, not least because we have been being told for 3 years that the moving of the library was a priority for the Isle of Wight Council, and more importantly, that the funding would be available if it took place from the sale of the existing site would be available, and that there was £50,000 in the capital budget which will be retained and rolled forward again to meet the costs of establishing the library element of the scheme. To have all those withdrawn is not pleasing, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Harry. So the meeting that you're entering now is somewhat exploratory, I would say. You're going to on Wednesday.
Explosively.
I think it's goodbye.
Okay. Okay, well, alternative elements, section 3, if there's no changes to the approach now adopted by the Isle of Wight Council, and given the Town Council cannot be expected to borrow 1 million for this particular project, it's surely time to explore other options for the Town Council's use of the building. It is possible that a substantial grant could be assessed for a project that would involve the ground floor for the library, the removal of the mezzanine level, and the restoration of the upper floor as a yet to be defined community area. A combination of the latest index of multiple deprivation data and partnership working with the Isle of Wight Council would provide good foundations for such an application. So I'd like to open it to the floor if anybody has some comments about that.
Just say a bit more about that, this potential grant.
There are several potential sources of it, mainly the reaching communities element of the big lottery funding.
Presumably the Isle of Wight Council could apply for that themselves if they had any commitment to the project.
Should they have the notion to do so? They
Yeah,
don't have the notion.
But no, it's quite clear from that email. I mean, that's just even the suggestions that we borrow £1 million are effectively saying we're not interested. And they know that we can't borrow £1 million there.
Well, we could, but it wouldn't be wise.
Well, no,
We wouldn't.
well, they know.
This council wouldn't pass it, I don't think.
Exactly.
Although we haven't put it in this council.
And it is incredibly disappointing that having, from what you're saying, provided money for it and made a commitment to reuse some of the funding from the previous site, that they're now just saying
Yes,
we're not interested.
it made us respond to Councillor Bondy's, agree with him completely. The other element of this is the Isle of Wight Council has a responsibility expressed in all of its recent plans to provide social housing. And it's walking away from that, although it has acknowledged in discussions with Councillor Nackamy that if it doesn't work here, it's not going to work anywhere on the island. And yet there appears to be a washing of the hands, really. I may be unkind, and perhaps Councillor Gary Pearce could not tonight necessarily, but to provide some follow-up to these concerns.
I'd be delighted to. I wasn't aware that the Isle of Wight Council had withdrawn from its commitments.
And that's pretty damning, isn't it? Because, as you say, if that blows a hole in not just this project, but they're probably part of the housing strategy for the whole island.
That's right.
That's where we think we are.
Yes.
Well, that's potentially worth making something of at the right time.
Having said that, the development of that particular scheme is more expensive than a greenfield site, which no doubt they've got elsewhere, even brownfield sites, which are flat and don't involve huge demolition costs, etc. So that there are particular reasons why they're expensive per unit, and that might be the reason that they're backing off. So I think we're owed an explanation.
Yeah, but I don't think it's not that cut and dry, Councillor Lucas. It's really not. I think they have said in full faith that might not work because of, and for the very reason of, that makes it difficult. That doesn't seem to be seen as a difficult site. It just is difficult.
But that's why
And we can take that as we want to.
with the grant, really, because if the grant was a strong prospect, then the Isle of Wight Council, you would have thought, would be a better place than us to run with it. So
No, I mean,
I think we're in the best place to run with it.
We are.
As far as the lottery goes, because reaching communities and one or two other of the lottery strands place a lot of emphasis on areas in the 20% most deprived.
yeah.
And we would have a very strong case, particularly if the Isle of Wight Council can be persuaded to rethink its contribution to the library, because that also would strengthen the case significantly.
The other two schemes that you're exploring, like the renovation of the top floor and use of the ground floor for the library, that would require us to own the building, wouldn't it?
Yes, but they've already said they will hand it over at no cost.
And that they would let us have it for £1, would they?
Yeah.
Good. We'll wait round for that.
unless they've changed their mind about that. But we've not been told that, but that is still on the table.
We still think that is a nil value
It's
site.
not really an asset at the moment, is it?
No, it's a liability, absolutely.
And we keep it going because we think there is accessibility to it rather than a liability. Absolutely.
Yes, if we released it, I'm sure we would lose control and it would be sold.
Sure.
Councillor,
Yeah, I'm going to harken back to the work I've done a lot with the community centre in Pan. And one of the ways we formed that was to initially go for a community interest company. That's how we initially sorted it out. And eventually we moved that into being a full charity status. It was at that point that the National Lottery came on board.
But for reaching communities, it's open to town and parish councils.
It is, but I think maybe I actually for the management of it, maybe to look initially at a community interest company to manage it and put some sort of management structure in to manage the place.
okay, thank you. It's interesting.
Because the potential is huge, but there's also potentially huge amounts of money involved as far as I know.
I think that's what that is very much what we recognise. Is the sums of money can be quite eye-watering, even just to make it fire safe. So, okay. Well, we have the resource and the motivation within this council, which neither of which may exist within the regeneration team on the Isle of Wight Council, specifically for that building. So,
You said that.
so if we're all happy, this is just for information, really, isn't it?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then, thank you very much. Okay,
Cheap club.
a rather simple item. Town Council meetings 2020. It would appear that we're following the same structure as
Second Monday of the month, it's half May.
April. I've just spotted here. We have April the 20th. I don't believe that can be a
It
second.
must be a bank holiday.
Bank holiday is the 13th.
No, it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, that's fine. So, quite a simple case. If everybody's in agreement, so I'll have a proposer and a seconder. If anybody wants to change the way things are done, I wouldn't imagine so. Yeah, can I have a proposer for this?
Well, I changed my tights that day, but I will propose that. Thank you.
I'll second it too.
Okay,
Yes.
and a show of hands, did you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a show of hands. Thanks very much.
We've got holidays around here.
Well, including the change in the tie.
Last but no means least, the town clerk's report, please.
Thank you, Chair. And the annual remembrance ceremony appears to have gone off extremely well again this year.
Yeah.
And that is largely down to the work of Alison and Morgan in this case, because the Town Council for the first time was responsible for the organisation, although as Alison would want to add, it was greatly assisted by Frank and Margaret Hunt from the Legion, who provided very strong support on the basis of their previous experience. Much appreciated, and it went so well for everybody. The agency day at St Margaret's Hall was successful.
I would say so, yeah. I'd like to see a few more residents come through the door, but at least it was a good day.
And did the Wi-Fi work?
Yeah, it did.
Good.
And we expect a full-blown banner very soon.
We are expecting to
Yeah,
go on
that's going to happen soon.
Yes.
The Upper Ventnor Community Association, Council of National I met with them as usual, every 6 weeks, as we have done for some time. The South Wight Parish's Health and Wellbeing Forum is in good health, as you can see. Maggie Oldham is coming back for a second visit.
She is.
As the Chief Exec of the NHS Trust. The children, Isle of Wight Council's Children's Services are delighted with their project on Boniface Fields. To possibly hope they can perhaps pass on some of that goodwill to those responsible for granting a lease on that site, which would be great assistance. And the working groups are then meeting and working. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Then that brings us to a final public forum.